Hello everybody, welcome back to Throttle Grotto. So, I know I promised next time I'm going to start working on the rabbit, but I got sidetracked again. This is going to be a little bit shorter episode because I've only got a day or two to work on stuff around here, actually like a day and a half because I had to go into work for a little bit today on my day off. Not a big deal, but anyway, I digress. I've still got a parts car in the way of the garage door, so I can't roll the rabbit out to work on the inside. Hopefully tomorrow I'll have that cleared out, but today I have time to work on this. Oh, hello, and of course Pooch came to say hi. Hi, girl. So she came to see what was going on. Get your nose out of the trash. So anyway, aside from that minor distraction, this is what we're going to be working on today. This is, I know you guys are probably saying, really, why are you wasting your money on it? It's kind of a fun thing. This is a JDM rear hatch spoiler for the Rally Prius. I'm going to an autocross this weekend, hopefully. If I do, you guys will see footage of it up on the channel for sure. But since I'm going to a rallycross and it's a race, and technically I've already raced the car, so it's a race car. I got this on eBay, pretty cheap, and it's kind of cool looking. You can see it's super deep. The stock one stops about here, about halfway. So it's a super deep spoiler. The only problem with it is it's the wrong color. My car's black and this one's like a dark gray. I thought about just putting it on and just rolling it, but at the same time, I have the technology and I bought some paint, and we are going to paint this and clear coat it and hopefully get it on today. If not, I'll get it on tomorrow. Might let it dry overnight, which is probably the best idea. But anyway, this break of between work we're going to get this done. So let's get to it. So the first thing we have to do is we have to prepare this surface to accept paint. It's a brand new spoiler. It's never been mounted. It came out of the box, brand new from Toyota. So don't really have to worry too much about it being waxed or any of that kind of stuff. It's brand new paint. So all we're going to do is we're going to take some 400 grit wet and dry paper, and we're going to take this out in the backyard, and we are going to sand it down and just get all the surfaces on this spoiler ready, because you have to rough it up so the paint won't stick to a perfectly smooth surface. But with a 400, the paint will stick to it and gives it that little bit of jagged edge in the paint, so to speak, to let the paint stick to it. So that's where we're off to next. Pros say that you should soak wet paper for 24 hours before you start using it. I let this soak for about a half hour, which is about 25 or 29 minutes longer than I usually soak wet dry paper for. But if you're going to follow all the pro tips, they say to soak it for a half hour. So all we're going to do is just going to rough this up. Yes, I need to mow the grass. It's getting long. That's on the agenda for either today or tomorrow. And remember, you don't have to go crazy scuffing this up. You're just giving a little bit rougher surface for the paint to stick to. It doesn't look any different when it's wet, but when it's dry, you'll see. You can see if you missed any spots. You can go over anything real quick too. So this here is the section that interfaces with the hatch. I'm not going to paint that because there's these little foam strips on here and the little foam pieces that go in there, and quite frankly, once it's bolted to the hatch, you're not going to see it. So if I get a little overspray on there, I'm not going to be worried about it, but at the same time, I'm not going to worry about it. So the next step is to get this dried off. We're going to wipe it down with a cleaner just to make sure there's no water or oils or anything like that left on it that may fish eye the paint. And then obviously we'll get the grass off of it too. I'm sanding it in the grass right now. And my bucket's got a bunch of grass in it. The spoiler's got a little bit of grass on it, but we'll wipe all that off. So now it's going to be back to the garage to get this thing prepped. And then we've got to set up the paint gun, and we've got to set up something to hold this in a reasonable position while we paint it. And I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that yet, because there's so many angles that I need to hit aside from that one. So the next step will be to figure that out. So back to the shop. All right, everybody. So let me show you what I came up with. I decided to use my engine stand to hold it up in the air, and I've got just a couple of bolts loosely threaded through there. I went to my scrap metal bin and found some welding wire to use as a hook. So now it's up in the air. I can get all the way around it. I can use the hook to spin it around if I need to, and then when I'm done, all I got to do is just wheel it inside and let it dry for the night. So quick and easy. Ideally I'd do this in a paint booth, but again, we're talking about something so minute that it's going to take me only a few minutes to paint it and then it'll be done. So the next thing to do is we're going to wipe this thing down with iso alcohol and get it ready to paint. Alright, so I have the paint, I have reducer, I have a little mixing container, I have some strainers, some little paper strainers that just go in the cup just to make sure there's no contaminants that get from the paint can into here. I went to the paint store, and interesting thing about this paint is you'll see on here it says Toyota Black Sand V12. Well, it's not because my car is a V12, I guarantee that. It is because this paint is version 12 of this color. So the people at the auto body paint store, Wesco, were nice enough to take the VIN and put it in their computer, and the VIN number actually told them where the car was painted at. So then from that they could cross-reference it to get the correct paint code. Even though it's 209 is the paint code, version 12 is just a little bit different formula. You know, if it was painted in this plant over here, you know, in one part of the country, and I don't know where version 12 was painted, by the way, but if they painted version 12 over here and then 3 miles down the road, you know, Bob's mixing paint over here, Fred's mixing paint over here, Fred doesn't get it quite right, Bob doesn't get it quite right, probably the correct formula was version 6 or version 2 or whatever, but Bob made version 12, painted this car, so we have version 12 paint. So the takeaway from that is, if you're going to get paint from a paint store, like where they inject it into a paint can, which I thought about doing, but I'm like, well, I might as well give this a shot, and then I can make a video and all that. But the other thing is, the paint injected in a can for an 8-ounce spray can was, for this color, 45 bucks. So I spent a little bit more, and I got a half pint, so half this can of paint. I got a full quart of reducer, or a liter for you Euros, and they gave me paint sticks and all that kind of stuff, and it was more expensive, but I have more product. The shelf life on the reducer, there is no shelf life. She said I can use some of this, and as long as I keep it sealed and covered, it'll last until I do another job. So I have some product that I can use on the interior of the Rabbit, interior of the Datsun, exterior of the Datsun, whichever. So I spent a little bit more money, and I got what will entail more product. And I guarantee I'm not going to even use a half, well, I don't think I'm going to use a half pint on this whole project, because it's 2 or 3 coats on the spoiler, and then we're going to switch to a spray can clear, which, again, not ideal. Nothing about this project is ideal as far as, like, we're not doing it in a paint booth. I'm going to use a mask instead of a respirator. If I was going to spray a whole car, if I was going to be sitting inside the Rabbit, I would totally get a respirator for this job, but I'm outside, I got a mask. I'm going to be spraying for 5 minutes total. Yes, there's a risk, but at the same time, I'm not doing it in a spray booth. Again, a lot of things that aren't perfect. I know there's guys out there that do auto body that are going to be like, oh my God, what is he doing? He's using isopropyl alcohol instead of wax and grease remover and all these other things. And it's like, this is just something for a daily driver. I could have just got a spray can and just spray canned it, both the base coat and the clear coat. But I haven't sprayed anything for probably 10 years at least. And I've only sprayed one other thing, and that was an engine compartment on a car that I sold many, many years ago. So I figured, what better way to brush up on the skills than to give this a shot. So I'm going to put on some gloves. I'm going to get all this, we're going to mix this stuff up. This gets mixed 1-to-1, so however much paint I use is the same amount of reducer. Put it in there, and hopefully we have good results. Otherwise, this is going to be a very expensive experiment. So let's get to it. Okay, so it's a funny thing. I've had my little painters, one of these painters pails, like laying around for a long time, and I wiped it out before I started. It's a good thing I did, because it was really dirty inside the cup just from dust in the air. So you don't need to use one of these, but most of the time when you go buy paint, they give you painter's cups, and they're graduated, so you just measure, you're done. So this one we're going to measure half a pint and half a pint. I guess we only have, this is a 1 pint pail, so we don't have a lot to we don't have a lot of room to play with as far as, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But all we're going to do is we're going to mix 1-to-1, stir it up, pour it in our gun, go outside, close the garage door, because I don't want overspray on anything inside the car or inside the garage. And I tarped up and put some moving blankets over the Jetta from last week, so the wagon has just got some stuff on it. It's a mess. I'll show that to you guys exterior wise at some point, maybe next week. But I don't want to have to clay bar a bunch of overspray off the clear coat of that car before I start polishing it. So let's mix up some paint. I should probably aim you guys down so you can see what I'm doing instead of looking at me in the ceiling. So I'm just using the marks on the side of the container. And we're ready to go out there and shoot some color. Alright, so it could get noisy since I'm outside and there's a lot of traffic here, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to wipe this down. Iso alcohol. Just a real inexpensive way to get all the crap off of it. Now we'll take the air gun, just blow it off. So since this is a brand new item, I'm going to run some paint thinner through it because the insides are all coated with oil, and the last thing we want is any kind of oil in our paint. So I'm going to run some paint thinner through it, and I'm going to run some rubbing alcohol through it, and then I'm just going to run straight air through it once it's empty to make sure that the gun is clean before I start using it. Alright, so back outside. This is hanging up. We've got paint in our gun. Everything's wiped down. There's probably going to get to be a little bit of dust on this, but again, 70,000 mile car, not too worried about it. Just to reiterate, if I was going to do a whole car, something bigger than this, like a whole door or something like that, I'd probably figure out a paint booth, some other way to do it. But this is just a spoiler. It's pretty minor. And it's good practice. So when I get to spray something big or something I got a little more invested in, it'll be good practice for me. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a couple of test shots here on my cardboard box, just so I can make sure that my spray pattern is right. Good idea before you start laying paint on here. So you guys can see it looks fairly good. You don't want it shooting on there real thick. It's shooting on there. So that's pretty good. I mean, to my eyes, that's pretty good. That's way better than a spray can. You know, you get way better atomization and all that kind of stuff out of even a cheap one of these than you do out of a spray can. So I know I'm going to have to hold this spoiler in place while I'm doing this to make it so that it doesn't swing in the breeze. That's why I have my gloves on. I took my watch off. I left my watch tan on, but I took my watch off, and so now we'll shoot real light coat of color on it, take a little break, let it flash. We'll do that a few times instead of just hosing it down with color. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit for a couple of minutes, and you can see didn't get super good coverage right there, but that's okay. This is just a real quick coat. I've still got a light spot there where I sanded through. It's light on the edges, light through there, light there, definitely light there. But the whole point of that first coat is just that. It's just a come on, tripod. There we go. So the whole point of that first coat is just to get a real light coat on it. It'll flash up super quick. It's nice and warm outside. It's pretty dry. It's pretty dry here right now. So with the breeze and everything, it's going to flash up real quick. Then we can go into a second coat. Second coat, we can put on a little bit more. I feel like it's going pretty good so far, but we'll see. It's a good thing I put my moving blanket over the car, because I don't know if that's paint or something else, but peace of mind. Alright, so second coat's on. This is where the patience really comes into play. I'm sorry if I got the compressor running in the background, it's going to be a little noisy. But this is where the patience comes in. You have to be really patient at this point and try not to get runs in your material, because if you put it on too fast and you don't let it flash, you'll get runs. So right now we've got our kind of our second real light coat on, and I got it a little heavy right there. Looks like we might have one little fisheye from some kind of oil, or there's the compressor. One little fisheye from some oil right there. It's kind of funny that I have to like hold this thing in place. I kind of knew that going into it, but it's kind of funny that. Must be even funnier to watch. So there I got a little bit more coverage there. So next time around, I think we can probably really put a good heavy layer on this spoiler, and see if that's gonna make it right. Okay, so that's one really good coat on there, and I can start to see some of the metallic in the paint, which is cool. See if I can show you guys here. Not really. If it was sunny out, you might be able to, but we are making progress. So we're going to let this one flash again. I can see I'm still a little light up through here. That's okay. We're gonna really fog this next coat on. One thing to keep in mind is that I don't know if you saw it happen when I started, but over here I had a little speck of dust on there, and when you pull this, you pull it a little bit and you just get air. That's it, just air. Then you pull it the rest of the way and you get paint. So I use just the air function. So I use just the air function to keep to kind of blow that little speck of dust off of there, and that's one less piece of dust that I'll have in my paint. But I know it's like, this is going to be really bad, because it's like there's people driving by up and down the street, and it's like I'm sure there's dust getting kicked up, and earlier there was cottonwood trees blowing stuff everywhere. So, but I want to get this done. I want to get it on the car. I want to see how it looks. So, so I think I've actually got enough paint in the gun to do this next coat, which is awesome. So I'm gonna let this flash, and then we'll do another coat. Alright, so I brought my flashlight out. Hopefully you guys can see the kind of the flake in there this time. I think a couple more good coats and we're gonna look pretty good. I mixed up a little more paint because I think that we're a little light, so mixed up another 1.5 ounces. So I mixed up 3 ounces total of sprayable material, and we're gonna put some more paint on. We are out of paint. I could either mix up some more, or I can clean up my equipment. And I think, by looking at it, I think it's time to clean up the equipment, because we've got kind of using my flashlight because it's a dull gray day and I'm working at an angle here, but it seems like I was able to get pretty good coverage on just about everything. I don't see any places where I really missed the mark. So I'm going to let this flash up, clean up, and then we will start with our little puff can of clear coat. So I've used, feels like about half a can of this stuff already, and I've got, I don't know, I can probably put 2 more coats on and this can will be gone. So this is an 8-ounce can of spray paint, and we had an 8-ounce can of color, and you can, I think that the 8-ounce can of color is going to go further, mostly because we mix it with reducer. But so how many cans, if I would have bought an 8-ounce can of injectable spray paint at $45, I theoretically could have used 2 cans. So at that point, the price for the material, not including clear coat, would have been about the same. So in this instance, you know, I think that going the route that I'm doing was probably the smarter route. And I've got a little paint left over that I can use for rock chips or whatever. You know, if I want to, I don't know. I don't even know what I'd paint the same color, but anyway, you know, if I was color matching something down the road, I've got enough paint left over that I could theoretically do something small, like maybe like mirror caps, or you know, if I had like headlight eyebrows or something like that, I could paint those to match too, and I would definitely have enough paint for something small like that. So just something to think about and put in your toolbox when you're doing these kind of projects is calculate out the cost between, like, yes, it might be a little bit more up front, but is it going to give me more flexibility down the road and save me money on the back end? So while I wait for this to flash, I'm going to keep shaking this can of paint. Hey everybody, so I decided to film another ending. I had an ending filmed earlier for this episode, but I wanted to kind of redo it because I pulled the rear spoiler off and did a little bit extra on it. It wasn't looking right, and the problem was I didn't have enough clear on it. I used that whole 8-ounce can of clear, and it barely put a coat on it. I had another can of clear in the garage, so I grabbed that. It was like an 11-ounce can, and I used probably 2/3 of that. So I used a significant amount of clear coat, and there's still a little bit of orange peel in it, and I think part of that is spraying from a can, and it's you know, I think spraying from a can is a majority of it. So earlier I did like kind of what I'd learned on this project, and I'll recap that because it was really good when I filmed it the first time, but I'll film it again. So what I've learned from doing this is I would have used 2 of the spray cans in this project just on the color coat on the spoiler, and that would have been $90. So I bought about $90 worth of materials, but I have stuff left over, like the reducer I can use on something else. What I would have done different is I would have also bought the clear and shot the clear with the gun, because I think it would have looked the way I wanted it to, like almost right out of the box, as opposed to I'm going to have to do a little leveling with some like 2000 or 1500 wet dry paper and then a little bit of polishing on it. but it turned out really good. I've actually got really nice lighting out here right now, so I'll show it to you guys. There's still some spots in the clear that are a little bit lighter than others, but overall, you know, it matches really well, and it's definitely a much more aggressive spoiler that's on here now, and I dig it. So that is, I'm going to call this a success, and this project for now is at an end, and that means so is our episode. So thanks for watching. If you like what's going on here, subscribe. There's going to be some more videos. There's another rallycross coming up for the Rally Prius in about a month, so make sure you look for that video coming up. Should be a little over a month before I have it posted, but if you're in the area, come on out. Dirtfish Rally School, end of June. It's going to be end of July. It's going to be a really fun event. Nationals, so there's going to be a lot of really cool cars there, and then this one. So, yesterday I uploaded, or actually today I uploaded the video of the first video of the Jetta wagon project, which I'm actually leaning against right now, so that if you haven't seen that one, check that one out. That's a new Can We Profit series that we're doing. So this is the first car we're going to try to make a little bit of money on. This could either be a huge bust or a big win. So and that's that video's up right now. I'm starting to work on cutting and polishing the body, just kind of waiting for the cylinder head to get done, but overall it's a pretty nice clean station wagon. So hopefully we get that back operational soon. Just waiting on the cylinder head now. So that is all the time we have for today. Again, thanks for watching, and you know what to do. Until next time, get out there and work on something.